Tonight, we have learned that charges have been dropped in a case involving a member of the Mitchell Baseball Association board, and a coach has also been acquitted. This all stems from an investigation into rape allegations involving the Legion baseball team. Donovan Miner is at the First Alert Now desk with the latest on these legal proceedings. Donovan, good evening.
Good evening, Andrea. According to Pennington County State's Attorney's Office, Luke Norden, who was the team's coach at the time of the incidents, was acquitted by a Davison County judge on 2 counts of failure to report abuse or neglect of a child and 2 counts of misprision of a felony. The judge also dismissed the charge against former NBA board member Jeremy Borgen, who was facing a misdemeanor charge of failure to report abuse or neglect of a child. The association initially suspended the rest of the season based on allegations of possible player misconduct in the summer of 2023. Now, meantime, 6 players of the team have pleaded not guilty to rape charges. Their cases are proceeding through the legal system. Live at the First Alert Now desk, Donovan Miner, Dakota News Now.
All right, Donovan, thank you.